Tully reached into his stash hole for his morning acorn. Nothing. He checked again, like the acorns might reappear if he just looked harder. Still nothing. Harvest wasn't for 6 more days. Here's the part nobody warns you about with money. You can have a steady income, a genuinely good one, and still hit the bottom of your stash before the next paycheck shows up. It doesn't feel like a crisis while it's happening. It feels like a Tuesday. Tully wasn't careless. That's exactly what makes this story worth telling. He had one of the better harvests in Acorn City. Steady, reliable, the kind of harvest other squirrels quietly envied at the market. So how does a squirrel like that end up staring into an empty hole 6 days out with nothing to show for it? Let's go back 2 seasons. Tully's harvest had just gone up, not dramatically, enough to notice, enough to feel like he'd earned a little breathing room. And the first thing he did with that breathing room was the thing almost every squirrel does without ever deciding to do it. He let his life get a little bigger to match it. A slightly roomier nest 2 branches up from his old one, the good bark snacks instead of the plain ones, a few acorn-shell trinkets for the entryway because the neighbors had them too. None of it reckless, none of it the kind of thing a friend would pull him aside about. Here's what actually matters about that list. Every single choice made sense on its own. A bigger nest is just comfort, better snacks are just quality of life, a nicer entryway is just pride in your home. Nobody sits down and decides to spend their entire harvest. It happens one reasonable choice at a time. There was one morning, a few weeks into this, when Tully stood at the acorn market looking at 2 bundles of bark snacks, the plain bundle, the good bundle, 3 acorns more. He almost grabbed the plain one out of habit. Then he thought about the trinkets on his neighbor's entryway, and the better bundle came home with him instead. 3 acorns. Nothing. Except it happened again the next week, and the week after that. Add enough of those moments up, and Tully's spending had quietly climbed to meet his income, almost acorn for acorn. He didn't notice because there was no single moment that felt like the moment. There was just a stash hole that behaved a little differently each cycle. It used to have leftovers a few days before harvest. Then it started running dry exactly on harvest day. Then a few days early. Then almost a week early, like it was racing to get there first. There was one night, stash already thin, when Tully caught himself reaching for a borrowed acorn from a market lender just to cover a snack he didn't even need that badly. He stopped himself that time, put it back, told himself that was a close call he wouldn't repeat. He didn't yet realize the real problem wasn't this one snack. It was that he was close enough to that decision at all. The gap creeping wider. He shrugged it off. Next harvest will catch me up, he told himself. That's not a foolish thought. It's actually the most natural thought in the world, because on paper, his harvest really was growing. It just never occurred to him that his spending was growing faster, quietly, in the background, where he wasn't watching. It never caught up. It never even got close. Let's stop the story here for a second, because what's happening to Tully isn't a squirrel world exaggeration. It's happening to most of the town, and it's happening to most people watching this right now, too. Researchers who study household finances call this lifestyle inflation, and the pattern shows up everywhere once you know to look for it. As income rises, spending tends to rise right alongside it, almost automatically, even when nothing about the person's actual needs has changed. The paycheck gets bigger, the lifestyle quietly expands to fill it. What doesn't grow, unless someone deliberately makes it grow, is the gap between the two. And right now, that gap has closed for a majority of people. More than half of Americans live paycheck to paycheck today, a number that has climbed sharply over just the last few years. It's not because half the country suddenly got bad with money. It's because spending has a way of rising to meet income, quietly, invisibly, until the space between the two disappears. There's a second piece of this worth knowing, because it explains why the danger doesn't feel dangerous until it's too late. Economist David Leibson built much of his career studying exactly this pattern. what he and other researchers call present bias. The idea is simple once you hear it. People consistently weigh today's comfort far more heavily than tomorrow's risk, even when they know in the moment that the math doesn't favor them. Think about why that bundle of better bark snacks wins almost every time it's standing next to the plain one. The extra 3 acorns are gone today, immediately, and the better snack is enjoyed today, immediately. The cost of that choice, the version of Tully with a thinner stash 6 days before harvest, doesn't exist yet. He's easy to ignore because he isn't standing at the market making the decision. Only present Tully is. Charles Springer ran a study looking specifically at this bias and how it relates to borrowing. And what they found lines up with exactly what almost happened to Tully that night at the lender's stash. People who discount the future more heavily, who feel today's small win more than tomorrow's larger cost, are more likely to carry revolving debt. Not because they're worse at math, because the appeal of the immediate thing keeps winning the argument against a future cost that doesn't feel real yet. That's not a character flaw in Tully or in anyone. It's closer to a glitch in how comfort gets weighed against risk. And the only real fix isn't trying to out-willpower it every single time you're standing at the market. It's removing the decision entirely before temptation ever gets a vote. And here's where the danger compounds. That close call Tully had at the market lender wasn't nothing. Total household debt has climbed for years now, and a lot of it isn't large emergencies. It's small, ordinary gaps just like his, covered by borrowed acorns instead of saved ones, over and over, until the borrowing itself becomes the habit. The interest on that kind of debt doesn't pause to let you catch up. It keeps charging while you're still trying to close last month's gap. Tully got lucky. He caught himself before that became his pattern instead of a one-time slip. So Tully wasn't weak-willed. He was, in a very ordinary way, exactly like everyone else trying to enjoy a good harvest while it lasted. Now back to the story, because the storm Tully didn't see coming was about to arrive in a much more literal way. It happened in the middle of the night. A branch cracked clean off his tree home, the kind of damage that needed fixing immediately, not whenever convenient. The repair squirrel wanted payment in acorns on the spot before he'd even climb up to look at it. And Tully had none. Not a little tight until harvest. None. Zero. The first time in his life the word broke actually applied to him, despite having one of the better harvests in town. This is the moment that actually exposes what was wrong the whole time. It was never about whether Tully earned enough. His harvest was fine. It was about whether anything had been set aside before the rest got spent. And the answer, every single harvest for 2 full seasons, had been no. What would you have done in his place? Borrowed from a neighbor? Let the branch sit cracked and hoped for the best? Both options feel bad, and that's the point. Neither one existed because of bad luck. Both existed because nothing had been protected ahead of time. Tully thought of his neighbor Brisk first, mostly because Brisk's tree home survived the same storm without a scratch of panic on his face the next morning. Brisk had a smaller nest than Tully, plainer snacks, no trinkets at the entryway, but when Tully knocked that night, Brisk reached into a separate hole, a quieter one Tully had never even noticed before, and handed over exactly what was needed without a second thought. "Started keeping this aside a few seasons back," Brisk said. "Forgot what it even feels like to need to borrow." But something about that whole exchange stuck with Tully in a way the cracked branch itself didn't. He'd felt completely exposed for the first time in a life that looked fine from the outside the entire time. And Brisk, with less harvest to his name, hadn't felt exposed at all. So Tully changed one thing. Not his harvest, not his job, not even his nest. He changed the order he did things in. Now, the moment a harvest comes in, before the nest, before the snacks, before anything else gets touched, a small handful of acorns goes straight into a separate stash he doesn't let himself open. a reserve stash, the same kind Brisk had quietly been keeping the whole time. Whatever's left after that handful is the only part he actually allows himself to spend. It sounds like a small change. It isn't. It rewires the entire system because it stops treating savings as whatever happens to be left over, which for most squirrels, most of the time, is nothing. There's a reason this particular fix works when "just be more careful" never does. When saving comes first, automatically, it never has to compete against a fresh craving for better bark snacks or a roomier nest. It's already gone before the rest of the decisions even start. Financial researchers sometimes call this paying yourself first, and the order really is the entire mechanism. Decide what's protected before you decide what's spent, and the spending simply adjusts to fit what's left. Here's the part worth sitting with more than any other part of this story. A full stash on harvest day means nothing if it's empty by the time you actually need it. The squirrels who stay steady through a bad week aren't always the ones with the biggest harvest. They're the ones who decided on purpose what gets set aside first, before anything else gets a vote. All went wrong again. Nothing dramatic this time, just a torn bit of bark roofing after a windy week, the kind of minor repair that used to mean a sleepless night doing math he didn't want to do. Tully noticed himself reaching for the reserve stash without even thinking about it, the way you'd reach for a light switch in a room you know well. He paid for the fix. He went back to bed. That's the entire difference between the two storms, separated by 3 harvests and 1 changed habit. The first one exposed him completely because there was nothing underneath him when the floor gave out. The second one was just weather, same kind of bad luck, same kind of bill, and barely a ripple because something had already been set aside before the wind even picked up. Tully's stash hole isn't overflowing these days. It's still a modest harvest, same as it ever was, but it's never empty either. And 6 days before the next harvest doesn't put a knot in his stomach anymore. The storm still cracked the branch. That part never changes. What changed was everything sitting underneath it, waiting, the whole time he didn't think he needed it.